And we are back. Buonasera a tutti. Good evening, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in a little bit later than usual and on a Sunday night. Thank you guys for accommodating this. It is Ryan Scoop Woodhams. I'm here with my buddy and co-host Brandon Furtado. Brandon, how you doing, my guy?
Scoop, I told you before we came on, I'm going to say it again for everybody that is joining us tonight as they come in. I just got in from a 6 hour flight literally about 20 minutes ago. I am tired, but you know what? I am here. I am dedicated. I'm ready to rock tonight. So let's go.
Sounds great. Looking forward to hearing more about it. I'm sure we'll be seeing pictures that I have already seen a couple of them. Looking forward to hearing all about it. Yes, we obviously have not been on the air for a little bit now. We had you obviously just got back from your adventures in Portugal. I myself just got back a couple days ago from a two-leg trip that had me in Boston with my mother, and then had me in New Jersey catching up with longtime college friends. So we both spent a little bit of time kind of out there in the world a little bit, and time to come back tonight. And I'm excited to go over things for the next hour with you because obviously, as is usual, especially in late July, there is no shortage of discussions to be had around baseball, no shortage of discussions to be had around our Yankees. And there is a, I'll say, a wide array and a vast difference of opinions when it comes to not only the play on the field, but some of the direction off the field, both with moves that have already been made and with moves that are yet to be completed. So, all of that we'll discuss as well. I'll get your thoughts on some things, both that have happened and things that may happen. And I look forward to hearing what is on everybody's mind tonight. So if you're tuning in, and if you tune in and have anything you want to ask, say, contribute, or just banter, you know to find us on Facebook, Twitch, Facebook, Twitch, Kick, X, or YouTube. Drop it right in that chat, and we'll be happy to engage with y'all and look forward to hearing what's on your mind. So, uh, I think I'll start with the two moves that have already happened, and then we'll get to some of the on-field play a little bit. But we do that every week pretty much. So I'm going to start with the two moves that just happened. While you were in Portugal, the Yankees, I'm sure you still had some way of connecting to the internet, so I'm sure you know by now, the Yankees acquired Ryan McMahon from the Colorado Rockies, and then not long thereafter acquired Ahmed Rosario from the Washington Nationals. Two guys that the Yankees have targeted for quite some time. This goes back a couple of years now for times that the Yankees have been trying to get these two guys. They finally excuse me. They finally come to an agreement with the respective teams on those transactions. What was your immediate reaction when you heard about the Ryan McMahon deal? What's your take on it? And just kind of your general thoughts, both on the deal itself, but also what it could mean for the Yankees the rest of the way for the deadline, and then on the field.
When I first, heard it, it it didn't surprise me. I mean, because I figured that as things went on, everybody kept talking about the big fish was, Eugenio Suarez, and as time went on, they kept saying that the Yankees were interested, but it didn't seem like they were all the way in on them. And then other teams were starting to get interested, starting to get on the train. Everybody wanted the big bat. I kind of started figuring that they weren't going to end up with him, but I definitely didn't think it'd be McMahon because it seemed like the second favorite, the next in line at third, was going to be Cabrian Hayes. Um, I mean that obviously didn't happen. Now they have McMahon, but I figured that he was going to be the next in line. So a little bit surprising because he was a name that's been linked to the Yankees now for over a year, basically a year and a half since last offseason, like the offseason before 2024. So um, it's gonna be interesting because we all know about his defense. He's a stellar third baseman. We've already seen that on display in his first two games as a Yankee. Um, but I definitely am interested to see how Zach plays in New York because at Coors, especially it's a hitter's ballpark. Everybody knows the history behind that. His numbers have not been good this year, so it's interesting. He's not he's a better hitter than what he's done this year. Um, but I definitely think that Yankee Stadium is technically more of a hitter's ballpark, especially down the lines. So if he kind of can tap into that a little bit, I think we'll do just fine. We don't need to be a ball killer. We doesn't have to kill the cover off the baseball, but um, as long as we get something like the last couple years where he's I mean pretty much a 20-70 guy. If you can get the rest of the season, if you can get maybe 10, 12 years, 40 RBIs, you'll take that if possible. Um, that's around the range where he was in Colorado for this year. So if you can take that
Right.
and with stellar defense, I think they'll be just fine. Um, but the defense is right away off the bat noticeably different. I mean, it was sorely needed at third. He's got a cannon for an arm. It seems like his range is incredible for the position. It's the hot corner for a reason. You need it. You need a good player to play that position. You can't just stick anybody at third like the Yankees have kind of been doing. We thought Peraza was showing some flashes at third, but it's been really rough going now that he's kind of stepped into that role. So they realized after he couldn't really take the reins over that they did need a third baseman. And we've been saying it all along this whole year that they need a third baseman. So they finally have one. Um, I'm not hating on it. I think it's a good pickup. As long as he can just pick up the numbers a little bit offensively, doesn't have to be a world beater, but if he can bat, around that 240, what he usually does, and has about an average to slightly above average OPS like he's known for the last couple years, we'll take that. I mean, that'll automatically be so beneficial to this lineup on both sides, offensively and defensively. So I like it. I really don't hate it. I mean, it's not they didn't give up a lot for him, so uh, you know what? It's fine by me. I mean, the guy is, I mean, he's only 30 years old, so he's still in the prime of his career. It's not like he's 34, 35, 36 years old. So, uh, all the way around, I can't hate it. I like it.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I also would say that this kind of reminds me a little bit with regard to some of the things about like talking about his home road splits, sort of the talk and some of the criticisms that people have said. Oh, we kind of went bargain shopping here or one thing or another. I remember some of these criticisms a few years ago with a similar Colorado Rockies infielder who came over to New York by the name of David John LeMahieu, and I think we both can agree, even though the end of his time sucked with us, I think we can agree that he held it down for quite a long time here. He definitely gave us more than we expected him to. Obviously, ultimately parlayed that into a 6-year, $90 million deal with us. And I think that there are some comparisons to be made here. I definitely think that the move looks better now, having gotten Ahmed Rosario,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of with the understanding that this is going to be kind of more of a platoon thing, albeit probably the most expensive platoon in baseball. But again, the fact that they combined to really shore up that position, which had been, and let's not mistake this here. This wasn't just the worst, perhaps the worst black hole on the Yankees. This was arguably one of the worst black holes in all of Major League Baseball. So this was something that the Yankees knew they had to get done. As much as I was rooting for Peraza, and as much as I was wanting to give him every single opportunity possible to really take that position, it was not going to happen, and it became apparent that, especially at third base, you can't rely on defense first when your bat is that bad. Unfortunately, so far, uh, Oswald Peraza has avoided DFA limbo. We don't expect that to continue for too long. I think we both expect that come August 1st, he will have been DFA'd. And my guess is that one of the 6 or 7 teams in the kind of the black hole of baseball, meaning the Angels, the Athletics, the Marlins, the Pirates, the White Sox, the Rockies, like one of those teams will take a flyer on him and
Mm-hmm.
claim him off of waivers. I think that we both really expect that. which is unfortunate, especially for somebody who was, again, he was another example of the untouchable prospect label that got slapped on, gets slapped on prospects every couple years, and for whatever reason, just didn't pan out. And I think it would be kind of hard to claim that we know exactly why that happened. I know we both have different theories on that. That being said, to look at the moves that were actually made, when you're going to get Ryan McMahon for Josh Gross and Griffin Herring, people are in general higher on Herring than Gross, but again, these are both A ball players. If you're going and saying that you won't need to contend this year, or your window is basically a year to 2 years, I'm sorry, your window is basically a year to 2 seasons longer, if that, then you don't give a damn what's going on with two A ball pitchers who are probably not going to see the majors for another 3 years to begin with, if at all. So people who were telling me, "Oh, I can't believe they gave up that much to get Ryan McMahon," that at that point, I'm sorry, excuse my language, but you're just looking for something to bitch about. Because if you really are of the belief that Brian Cashman needs to do whatever he can to win this year, Hal Steinbrenner needs to do whatever he can to win this year, or at least going into next year, then I'm sorry. There's absolutely no universe in which Josh Grosh or Griffin Herring was going to be a factor in that. And so I thought that was a positive move. They then, as we both know, turned around and made that deal for Ahmed Rosario. I was a little, I won't say disappointed. It did catch my attention that the Yankees gave up Clayton Beeter in that deal. For those who don't remember, that was the pitcher that the Yankees acquired from the LA Dodgers when they traded Joey Gallo. I was just surprised that they got any sort of notable pitcher at all. And I think that there's probably some hope in Washington that they can at least turn him into a seventh or eighth inning reliever. The Yankees wanted to develop him as a prospect, as a starting pitcher, but unfortunately, his command and his control have just been absolutely AWOL. They have just not been able to get that locked down. When it comes to guys who were all stuff and no command or control, they already have plenty of those guys, which rendered Clayton Beeter expendable in their eyes. And then the other guy that was moved in that deal was Brown Martinez. And yes, I said Brown. That's not a misconnection or whatever. This is somebody who is 18 years old, won't even be 19 until this season. I'm sorry, after the season. He was actually doing pretty well with the bat when they moved him. He's in rookie ball right now. At rookie ball this season, he's hit 404 with an OPS over 1100. I emphasize to people who are listening to this is rookie ball. This is, again, these guys are 6 or 7 years younger than either one of us. This is, those numbers can be very misleading, especially that low down. He is currently a center fielder. There's a lot of people who believe that that's going to be a position off which he shifts in another direction. But he'd only been in their system for about a year and a half. They got him as an international free agent last January of 2024. So again, you believe, at least at this point, that you kind of have a platoon, sort of if you want to use a Moneyball reference, an aggregate sort of solution right now to your third base problem, and it cost you two A-ball pitchers, a rookie level center fielder, and a guy who has not met your expectations, as far as basically another failed starting pitching prospect. So to take care of that, and and again, you and I know we weren't entirely in lockstep on the Eugenio Suarez thing. I was definitely one of the more staunchly anti-Eugenio Suarez guys, and I mean, and obviously this is only a 1 day of sample size, but he literally was the difference in the game today, both at the plate and in the field. Obviously, that's only one game, and it just happened to be right off the heels of the trade. But I look forward to hopefully seeing more of that. We've seen a lot with his glove the last 2 days, and it's been a welcome sight for a lot of Yankees fans. But that being said, I think we both agree that this is barely scratching the surface. I think we both agree that multiple pitchers are needed. I
Mhm.
personally wouldn't be averse to going out and getting at least even another position player. And why is there an alarm going off in my house? But the next 5 days, and this is the thing that, or one of the things that I complain about with Yankees fandom, social media, buzz, radio, whatever you want to call it. I saw yesterday way too many people saying, "Why is this a priority? Why aren't we? Why are we not getting pitching yet?" Blah 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 blah. Do the Yankee? I think Yankees fans must be missing their calendars and not understanding that it's not April or August 2nd yet, because you you negotiate based on where the market's going. If you think that it's better to pounce on a deal right now to get two infielders and then negotiate the pitchers after that, then so be it. It's not based on how important something is, or how getting these two guys doesn't mean that this is going to be your biggest move. I remember a couple years ago, and I'm sorry, I know this trade ended up being a disaster, but when we made the Sonny Gray trade a few years ago, the Jaime Garcia trade was made several days in advance of that. And a lot of fans, including myself, I'll be very honest, were like, "Are you kidding me? This is going to be, this is our move for pitching or whatever." So just because this is the move that's been made so far, in no way, shape, or form does that indicate that they consider this their biggest move, or whatever. In fact, I just heard literally right before we went live that the Yankees have engaged with talks with the Rockies. They have come back to the table after they couldn't get an agreement done that featured both Ryan McMahon and Jake Bird. The Yankees have re-engaged with the Rockies on talks regarding Jake Bird, and I know you and I are both high on him.
Yeah, and I think so far, just around the league in general, it's been a little bit. I mean, we always say this every year because they hyped it up again this year, talking about how it's gonna be a big deadline, and it still could be. We were still a few days out, or I mean, pretty much almost a week, about 6 days away. So, um, there's still time, but this, I mean, really, for the most part, this has been a quiet deadline. Um, but yeah, if you can get somebody, if you can go back and potentially pick up a guy like Jake Bird, I would take it. Um, Yankee fans, all across social media right now, like, oh, why aren't they going out and getting another starter and going and like, oh, what about Paul Skeens? What about Scooble? I'm like, you guys do realize, right, that the Yankees don't have anything those teams would want right now, and not only would they not have that, but that they're just not available.
The
Those,
the
those
the Paul Skeens thing doesn't bother me as much, just because, again, it's a crappy team with I think that there's people who believe that the fact that the Pirates are not moving Paul Skeens is a mistake, so that doesn't bother me as much. The fact that anybody thinks that a surprising contender and a team with one of the best records in Major League Baseball would move their ace is, I'm sorry, but whoever your neurologist is needs to get fired immediately. I don't understand where even, and I know fan is short for fanatic, and I know people are oftentimes thinking with emotion and not logic, but how does that make sense to anybody? Like, there is nothing, and not for anything, but the Yankees, compared to other teams, do have a relatively weak farm system. So, or at least I'll say they've got a relatively bottom heavy farm system. So, with that being said, even if they were willing to move Tariq Skubal in God knows what universe, there's absolutely no way New York could even compile one of the top
yeah,
five offers
yeah,
for that. And I'm just being realistic. Like, and even if you start, excuse me, your top guys who are either considered prospects right now or who would have just lost their prospect status are guys like Dominguez and Volpe, who are two of our worst players right now. And then the guys going down the system, George Lombard, even if you were willing to trade him, I can think of five other teams who have more to offer than George Lombard. And I mean, even our own rival, the Boston Red Sox, they've got three top prospects, in overall in baseball right now. They would automatically have a better package to offer than we would, and that's just one team that I can think of.
mhm.
So So yeah, so that's just wildness, but we start looking around at guys who are more realistic, guys like a Mitch Keller out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Maybe pair him with a David Bednar, who was somebody who was so bad they had to send him to the minor leagues, and then he kind of refound his footing a little bit. Uh, I think for a while we were kind of, or at least I was kind of hoping that maybe a trade like that could parlay into an Isaiah Kiner-Falefa reunion. That appears now to be off the table now that these two guys have come over. But pitchers around the league. There's been some rumblings that Mac Gore could be available from Washington. I don't know how much I buy that. And similarly, like we were just saying, I don't know if New York could offer the best deal, but that is definitely something that I would look into if, for whatever reason, Washington dealt them. I don't know why they would do that, but it is being reported that that's possible. If we talk about circling back to the Arizona after the Eugenio Suarez talks fell through, I know you and I have talked about. I'm more on the Merrill Kelly train. I know some people still believe in. Zach Gallen to get it right. My vantage point: we're not in the hope you get it right business right now. We're in the we better see right out the gate that we know what we're getting with you business right now. Because I don't know if you saw this, but SNY, there's a guy for SNY, Andy Martino, who I know sometimes he can kind of cut. He can kind of cut either way with regard to how reliable he is, in my opinion. But there was a report that came out that the Yankees, for a brief period of time recently, contemplated whether or not some of their relievers or some of their guys who are in their walk year, whether they would kind of almost do what they did in 2016, which was kind of like I don't want to say sell, but kind of like a soft, retool, if you want to call it that. That being said, their ability to kind of tread water with the wild card and the fact that a lot of the teams behind us haven't done much better than we have, that I think has kind of kept them in the position where they believe that they're still going to approach as buyers, but maybe not quite as aggressively as they would have had they not blown a 7-game lead. And I was never really in the seller business fully. That being said, and we'll go into our next topic now, but had the Aaron Judge announcement been, God forbid, had it been a torn ulnar collateral ligament, and had it been another Tommy John situation like we had with Jason Dominguez, then I would have had to seriously consider that, because your bullpen's already crapped out to the point where you've had the worst numbers in baseball in bullpen the last month or so. You know how bad your defense has been, and then to lose your best hitter by the longest of long shots. I mean, at that point, are you really going to put the rest of your season in the hands of Max Fried and Carlos Rodon? That's basically what your season comes down to, is those two guys. And unfortunately, those two guys can only make 40% of your starts. So at that point, I would have seriously given that a consideration. Thank God Aaron Judge appears to be, at least positioned to come back sometime in August or September. So we'll see how that goes. I'll let you respond, and then we're going to jump in on Michael's comment.
Yeah, I think, I was saying it even before Judge got hurt, even before I went on vacation. I was saying that, at the start of this month, I said, really, when you look at the team right now, there's only 2 reliable starters, in the rotation. I mean, really 2 reliable pitchers. I feel like, outside of your closer right now, outside Devin Williams, but your 2 reliable guys were Rodon and Fried. Now Fried has been struggling pretty heftily lately. So you hope he can figure it out soon. I mean, he's going through a real rough stretch the last 4 or 5 starts. But Rodon has been really good. When you look around, I mean, Stroman has been in business coming back, but got roughed up yesterday. So it's definitely, it's tough when you're in the Yankees position right now, because obviously, you're more I can't even speak, I'm so tired. You're more likely than not going to make a playoff spot, a postseason spot, because, I mean, if you don't win a division, the wild card is obviously right there. So um, it's just tough, to figure out when the Yankees are in this position that, how aggressive, like you're saying, how aggressive do you really want to be at
Mhm.
the time? How much are you willing to give up if you think you're really going to go all in for this year? And then how much do you think, how many pieces do you think you need to achieve your goals? And right now, when I look at the team, I'm a little bit worried because the Yankees don't want to kind of backdoor their way in as a wild card. That's not what the Yankees
No.
would prefer to do. But it it's tough because you have so many holes on this team. I mean, you just addressed third base, which is good, but you have a real struggling shortstop, but he's your only guy on the roster that's going to play the position. So you have to kind of roll with Anthony Volpe. Jazz is perfectly fine at second. That's where we all wanted him to be. First is kind of tough because you have Goldschmidt, but they're trying to integrate Rice in there. But Rice is kind of struggling to pick up the fielding part of it. Um, in the outfield now, you're missing Judge for I mean, what sounds like a week and a half to 2 weeks doesn't sound like it's any more than that, which is good. Um, and then you've got, Bellinger's been great. Grisham's still really good. Dominguez, I still have faith in, even though the numbers have dipped a little bit lately, but still good. Um, he's gonna grow and get better, I think. Wells is all right, but it's a lot of just all right and okay guys, and then a couple really good ones, and then a lot of just mediocre fall by the wayside, like Volpe, etc. So when you think about it, and that's just the hitting side of things. Then when you look at the pitching, which is what we're talking about, like I say, you only have. This you were supposed to go into this season with, you know, arguably one of the top three rotations in baseball, and now you're down to one really good starter, but two all stars, and that's really it. And then everyone else is either hurt or ineffective. Uh, you've got the bullpen right now that's just blowing games left and right like crazy. They can't stop giving up runs. Jonathan Loizaga, I think. I'll say it now, and I'm a lot of Yankee fans feel this way, and I think at this point it's true. I think the injuries at this point of his career have taken its toll, and I think he's just shot. Um, so I don't think that there's any kind of saving whatever's left of him. Um, Tim Hill's still your lefty specialist. He's still a guy that can get ground balls and get out of really tight jams. He's your high leverage guy. I still love what Tim Hill does. Um, Luke Weaver has found it again recently, which is nice. Um, Devin Williams has been really good actually. So you have some guys there, but a lot of your guys in your bullpen, and obviously most of your starters are just not getting the job done. And then you have just a couple holes in the field, really, when it comes to your position players. That it feels like it's obviously not. There's never a punt situation for the Yankees.
No.
It just feels like we're on the verge right now, where they sit in the standings. It just feels like that this is really make or break. If the moves they make now don't parlay into wins, then it's just you're just gonna start looking towards next season. Because another month of this kind of baseball, and you're gonna, you might backdoor your way into a postseason spot, but you might start looking towards next season. So it's definitely tough. They need their captain back. They won today though, which is good. Although all four runs were scored in just one inning. But today was nice. Ryan, like we said before, Ryan McMahon had another good game defensively, which is what you need to see first before the bat picks up again. So
Right.
it's trending in the right direction off of today's performance, and he's been great the first two games as a Yankee. So hopefully they can build off that. I would like to see Merrill Kelly at this point too. I think he's the guy I'm circling. Arizona is really not going to do anything. So if the Yankees could somehow get him from Arizona, I would be over the moon. He is a little bit older, but he's putting up great numbers. So I mean, you take that every single day. I mean, and twice on Sundays, and I'm not just that, but you need it for the rotation because, like we're saying, it's depleted. So, um, if they can swing that, or if they can, if they can kind of, I don't want to use the word poach, but like take some guy, because Matt Blake also, can work miracles. Like we were saying before, Jake Bird is nice. He can be
Right.
a nice thing that Matt Blake can kind of toy around with and unlock some potential in him, which he's done before. Well, I mean, we know the other guys he's done it with, like a Clay Holmes and things like that. So, I'm still going to remain somewhat optimistic, but I don't think I'm all the way sold on these moves just yet. And like you were saying, we got to still see a little bit more, but it's a right step for it being so early after these moves were done. So,
Right. And yeah, Max Fried has been just kind of weird the last couple weeks. His cutter has not been as um, effective as it was to start the season. Now, again, if you looked at some of the peripherals in the first, however many starts it was going through the end of June, there was some indication that he was due for some regression when it comes to his numbers. His expecting batting average was like 40 points above his actual batting average. So there was definitely some clear indicators of regression. Now, a lot of us, myself included, didn't expect that it was going to come with an ERA of about 6 this past month. So it definitely was a little bit of a harder crash than we anticipated. He did face Toronto twice, which obviously we've seen Toronto break out of absolutely nowhere. So that's, I will say it's a factor. He also faced Chicago, which again, another team that's been very good. Now, obviously, that being said, you're dealing with, those are the teams you're going to be facing in October. So, you can't expect that you're going to be facing the White Sox and the Orioles in October. So, it's not an excuse, is what I'm trying to say. Now that being said, going up in his last start against Toronto, I will say part of that may have been. I know sometimes they've said, I can't remember who it was earlier who was talking about it on MLB Network, but they said that the first start out of the All-Star break for a lot of pitchers is a little bit janky because they're off their rhythm and one thing or another. So at least insofar as the last start, that could have been something that was at play. It doesn't track for what was going on the first three starts before that. But also I will say that people have been talking about how some pitchers struggle with that, and kind of that switching up of your rhythm, because obviously he was pitching every 5 days for the longest time. And when I say every 5 days, I mean quite literally by the number, every 5 days for the longest time. And then he went 11 days without pitching going into his last start in Toronto. So I don't know if that was a factor, at least for this last start. Obviously, like I said, it doesn't explain the three prior, but that is something that I would mention. Michael Olson says, is Mitch Keller someone who you would trade Spencer Jones for? Why or why not? You go first.
I see it's tough because here's really the kind of interesting part about this is it's not so much the player aspect of it. It's kind of where the Yankees sit right
Yeah.
now. Because if you would have asked me this before the All Star break, I would have said, the time to trade Spencer Jones is now. I still think that they probably should trade him because I don't see room for him on this team next year even, and he has to come up he has to either come up uh, either sometime late this year or he has to come up next year. But I don't see any room for him on this roster. So what's tough about it, and the thing is, you're not going to platoon him at 25, 26 years old. We've said that before. You
Especially
platoon,
not right after his debut.
yeah. And the thing is, like, you would probably platoon him if he's 20, 21, something like that. Um, so what's tough is the age. It's the room for him on the team. So there's a little more, and then also where the team sits right now, being 5.5 back of Toronto in the division. You're not quite too far behind them, but you're not close. You're hanging in the wild card race. You're kind of caught in the middle with what you can do versus what you want to do versus what you should do, like all these different things. So it, I think, you know, Mitch Keller is a tough situation because he's in the prime of his career, right? This is his first really, really. We don't talk about the wins and losses thing because it's the Pirates. All their pitchers they don't get any run support. So the wins losses, you don't pay attention to that. You got
No.
you got to focus on basically the ERA. You got to focus on the K rate. The things that really do matter for a pitcher.
Right.
And so far, this has been his best year of his career. Definitely his best year as a starter. 2020 is a janky year. He made 5 starts, 2.91 ERA. But this year, 29 years old, 3.53 ERA, 21 starts. So he's not really missing any starts. He's been healthy. So, you think about things like that. Innings pitched. He's on pace pretty much to break or to either to reach or to exceed his total for innings pitched this year, which is nice because that's what you want. You want durability and strength, and you want to see you're one of your better pitchers, whether it be your not just your ace, but even your second or third guy go deeper into games. So he's getting the innings pitched, count up. But I definitely think that that's a hard 1-for-1 to do, right? Because Spencer Jones is an outfielder. You would think, and the thing is, he's a center fielder. But the problem is with doing anything in center field is that then what do you do with Oneil Cruz? So when you think about it, it's definitely tough to, because you don't want to put Spencer Jones somewhere where he's going to start right away, but put him in a position where because Spencer Jones can play, I believe, all 3 outfield positions, but I know he's mostly a center.
Yeah, he's been mostly in center. Actually, much more in center field than I thought he was. I thought he was a kind of a corner guy also, but no, it's been very rigid, predominantly center field, which I actually didn't realize until I looked it up.
So that's where, and that's another reason why it's tough to move him, because the Pirates, they love Oneil Cruz's potential, even though they've said recently they're not opposed to letting him go and trading him. But realistically, you have the potential guy in Oneil Cruz, and you have somebody who's red hot right now in Spencer Jones. For the Pirates, I don't think it would make sense to want to go after him, to say, hey, you give us him, and we'll give you basically our second best pitcher. I don't know how that would work. So really, I think that the Pirates would be taking an L no matter what on that deal, because the Yankees would be getting a much needed, basically number 3 starter, and you would end up, if you're the Pirates, now not having basically your second best pitcher and having a conundrum in the outfield. So it wouldn't make sense on the Pirates, and I don't think. And I think for the Yankees, you obviously want to get him, but where do they kind of lie in terms of what you give up to get him? Spencer Jones is going to be highly talked about because the guy is basically the hottest hitter in AAA right now. And we already know where he stands in terms of all the Yankees prospects, MLB prospects, and this guy's a lefty Aaron Judge, quote unquote. So it's definitely it's really interesting to see what a deal or what a package for Mitch Keller would look like, because the Pirates could use everything because it's the Pirates,
Right.
and the Yankees just need a starter. So I don't think you might not even have to give up Spencer Jones to get Mitch Keller. You might have to give up probably something different, but Spencer Jones for Mitch Keller doesn't seem like that's something that would happen, just based on the logistics of it and where kind of 2 teams sit and all these different things. So I I don't know, but I definitely think that, I mean, like I said, if they can pull it off somehow, getting Mitch Keller and giving up not a whole lot for him, oh, you'll take it any day of the week. I mean, the Pirates, they just need all the help they can get. They'll take probably a boatload of prospects, even if it's not Spencer Jones, and even then they still, you know, even if it's a little bit less than that, even they probably still take it. So we'll see. But if I'm the Yankees and I'm looking for that next starter, that's who I would really want. He's at the top of my list if they can get him. But we'll see. The deadline is still what, 6 days away, so we'll see what that,
Uh, 4, I think.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So just to come in off of that, I definitely agree with you in the part of the the issue with kind of the deal. Not it. I'll put it this way: to answer his question of would I be willing to do it, like, 'cause that seems like the point of the question really was,
yeah,
would I do it? Um, the answer right now would still be yes.
yeah, yeah,
Mostly because, and again, let's assume, and I don't think this is true by any sense of the word, but let's assume that the Yankees were looking toward next year rather than this year. Okay, and
hmm,
looking. Whoops, I hit the wrong button. And just kind of looking toward. I wouldn't say considering this year a wash, but however you want to phrase it. Cody Bellinger has a player option for next season, and that's one of the two guys they've mainly played at center field this year. Uh, the whoops, hello. Trent Grisham is a free agent next season, so you've got kind of potential hole there, but also potential, that you've got, depending on what Bellinger does. And I think there's a lot of indicators right now that Bellinger, he clearly wanted to be in New York, and
yeah.
I know that free agency is going to talk, but I don't know. I have a hard time believing Bellinger will not be here next year. So that being said, and again, I want to point this out. They've kept They've played it very slow with Spencer Jones. He spent over 100 games at Double A. He spent, almost as many games at High A ball. They're not going to suddenly promote him having 20 games at the Triple A level. He is not going to make his debut at the major league level until, in my opinion, minimum September 1st next year. That's my personal opinion, because I doubt, especially when his strikeout issue had been getting worse the further up he went. I, and what do they always say? The jump from Double A to Triple A and the jump from Triple A to the majors is just as much, if not more. So I find it really hard to believe they would suddenly, like, just say, screw it with regard to slow playing him and all of that. So I personally don't believe that he's now, if they look at it as Bellinger potentially, because he has an option for next year if they don't extend him, and if they think that he might not be, he might walk after next year, then maybe they look at it as Spencer Jones takes the keys after next season. So I can see plenty of scenarios in which they do that. And then I look at, something like I'm going really deep with this, but then I look at something like the 2026 to 2027 free agency pool, or whatever you want to call it. That's got, I mentioned Bellinger, but that's it does have, Harrison Bader, of whom I've always been a fan. It's got guys like Randy Arozarena. It's got, this has it as having Ronald Acuna Jr. I don't think that's the case anymore after his deal. I have to double check on that. Um, but there are going to be guys available in the outfield after next season. Are they quite as good as we believe Spencer Jones could be? I'm not sure, but just looking at it from that vantage point, there are plenty of options that they could have, and I mean, even this off season at that position, which you might argue is even better. So I think that there's going to be plenty of options for them, and I don't think that he should be clung to if he's the difference maker. So I would trade him. However, I wouldn't trade him. I wouldn't trade him liberally. I would be very cautious about any deal in which I included him. But if someone says this guy you want, the difference is whether or not you're willing to trade Spencer Jones, I'm not hanging up the phone right away.
Yeah, I think that's right. I definitely think that, and I mean we've been saying it for a while on the show now that if you're gonna trade him, the time to do it would be now. But it would just depend on what you could get for him. Like in this hypothetical, it's like I don't know how that would sync up, but but I mean there's definitely probably different trade packages that can work around it, maybe. Even though I don't think it's likely. Um, so I don't know, where or what the Yankees would get and where they would send him to. But I'm in the same boat as you. That if listen to the offers, but it's got to be something that really sticks out to you because, well, you kind of know what you have in the minors. Everybody's taking notice of them. The size, the strength. Just the fact he's absolutely killing it in AAA. I mean, strikeouts are one thing, but the guy is just absolutely raking.
But and that's also another point is the strikeout rate so far has decreased a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's a span of 100 and some odd games versus less than 20 games. So, sometimes those rates, even out with a lot larger body of work, and that could work to his benefit, and it could also work against him. So it goes back to what I said earlier about just needing to see over a larger period of time.
Yeah. And then, and I just think overall, I mean, in the end, like we're saying, whatever the Yankees could get for him, it's, you obviously for the Yankees, you're going to want to hear the best package possible. So we'll definitely see. I don't think at this point, unless they're blown away by something, that he would move. I mean, obviously. So I don't think he moves this deadline, and I think they're gonna kind of see what they've got going towards next season in terms of feeling out like kind of where he's at, where they're at. But the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of on your side of things, where I think that if they do call him up, it wouldn't be to start next year because there's no room on the roster. I mean, I don't even think it's not just because he's not ready. I just think there's no room on the roster.
Yeah, I agree with that because that's the other thing too, and we talked about this with guys like Peraza, but we talked about it with other guys as well. If you're going to call up somebody, especially your top prospect, and you're going to do it that aggressively, you're not going to do it to play him twice a week.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's my question is, you're also, in my opinion, if you're playing him this exclusively at center field, you're playing him with the intent of playing him at that position in the major leagues, unless he absolutely craps out of that position in AAA. So that's why I started bringing up guys like Grisham and Bellinger, because now again, I could see a scenario in which, for whatever reason, they give up on Jason Dominguez, trade him, shift Bellinger to left field, and then put Spencer Jones at center. That is probably the one scenario in which I could see Spencer Jones being our center fielder in the next 12 to 18 months. But so that's why he's kind of in an interesting situation, and the Yankees are in an interesting situation because I really am 50-50 on whether I think he actually becomes our center fielder or not. I think if Bellinger signs a long-term extension, I think that they trade Spencer Jones. If Bellinger doesn't do that, then I think that there's a good chance we do keep him. Again, the only thing that would really shift that for me is if they completely just run out of time with or the hourglass runs out of sand for Jason Dominguez. But even him, I think if they're giving Volpe another year, I think they're giving Dominguez at least 2.
Yeah, and it's the age thing too. Like that, it's this is Dominguez's first true year. and it's not great, but you know what? For what it is, it's not horrible. I mean, the OPS is hovering. It's kind of been up and down, but it's kind of hovering around league average. Batting average is a little over 250, so you kind of live with that. But I mean, he's still putting it together. I mean, the guy is literally. I almost anybody younger than us, I say kid. So I feel like
Yeah,
I'm a kid. I mean, he's 22 years old. He's 3 years younger.
yeah,
So
but and that's the thing that I say when it comes to guys like this is these guys are not 27, 28 year olds who are what they are now is probably as close to as good as they're going to be, and guys don't reach their prime until late 20s, sometimes 30. So expecting that this is the best that and that comes back to, we've talked about this with the Yankees, but that comes back to the issue when you never rebuild or you never commit to just the future, because that's kind of how guys develop. It's they go through a season hitting, or a season or two hitting 150 in the major leagues. They go through a season or two getting 4.50 ERAs in the major leagues, and giving up too many homers. That's how guys develop. They don't typically develop maximize at AAA and then try and try and take the jump to the majors at age whatever. So and that kind of, I think, comes back to the fundamental philosophy of the Yankees, that while I love it in a lot of respects, I think also again, when you're not striking gold with the core four, I mean, there's a reason why until they had the core four, they didn't win shit. Sorry, they didn't win for 20 years. And so I think, barring catching lightning in a bottle, and I know that the Yankees have wanted to believe that that some of their top prospects the last few years have been that, when they had, let's say Sanchez, Severino, Judge, and Bird, or when they had, more recently, I'm struggling to think of names right now, but it's, you have to accept that's not happening. You're not getting the core four is not walking, or another core four is not walking through that door. So you've got to figure out, sort of your balance of which guys you're hanging on to no matter what. And that appears to at least include George Lombard. Some people I've heard from say that that includes Cam Schlittler. And then this kind of was interesting to me, but there's been people who have said that includes catcher Rafael Flores as well. So that's actually a name that I hadn't heard on that list before, but that's been something that I've heard a few times recently. But my understanding is that aside from Lombard, it sounds like pretty much anybody could be had in the right deal. But the question is, does that right deal come up? Because just because it's the best deal you're being offered doesn't mean it's the right deal.
yeah, and I think that's kind of where this team is at, and where we're kind of at with it. And I think that so many people. And we're talking about like the Dominguezes and the Volpes of the world. It's like Volpe's a little bit different case because he's already been up here for 3 years and it's kind of getting worse as he goes on. But I think especially in the case of Dominguez, he's 22 and everybody's like, oh, well, he's been a little bit up and down, whatever. I'm like, okay, well, here's the thing: it's his first year. The only guys that I can think of in recent memory at that age or even younger that made an impact right away, there's only two that come to mind off the top of my head, and it's Juan Soto and it's Bryce Harper.
Yeah, I had a feeling that was going to be the other name you said.
Yeah, that's the list. Two guys, two generational players. So, people got to realize that for 99.999% of the MLB world, you are not going to be a phenom at 19, 20, 21, whatever years old. He's 22. He's shown flashes this year. We know he has the speed. His glove is still work in progress. We know he has the speed. We know he has a little bit of pop, and it's only getting better. And I mean, not for nothing, but when you look at the numbers, He hasn't played every game. He's played 85 games, but he's got 36 RBIs. So I mean, that's roughly half the year. So if you were to pull that over the whole season, if he played 162 or roughly, he's gonna hit over 70 RBIs and be basically a 20-70 guy. So it's I don't want to give up on somebody like that yet because he's only 22. So, Volpe's case is a little different because of what we've talked about for so many shows in the past. But, guys don't come up right away and are phenoms. There's only been 2 in the last 15 years. And that's for, obviously every MLB team. So
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And I know this probably sounds crazy, but hey, I get at least one of those ideas per show. So, if Bellinger and Grisham both don't come back next year, and for whatever reason they don't think that Grisham's ready yet, what do you think? Do you think this is something that they would do? Put Jazz Chisholm in center field and try Anthony Volpe at second?
I could see it. I mean, it's a long shot, but I mean,
I know it's a long shot, and I know that it opens up a hole at shortstop. But the thing is, I have long believed that his game plays up at second base. Jazz Chisholm, I think that shifting a guy from second base to shortstop, unless you're Mookie Betts, I just don't see that happening. And there are guys available this offseason. I don't remember, is Bo Bichette still available, or did he get extended? I feel like he got extended.
Did he? I don't know if I heard anything because
I can't remember. But if he didn't, Bo Bichette is somebody that you could potentially look at. But either way, you'd rather have to replace a shortstop than have an underwhelming shortstop. And I look at his physique, his game defensively. I just think he plays up at second base. I think you could put Jazz in center field because that's another position he's comfortable at, along with second. Definitely more than third base for sure. And I think in that scenario, I think Jazz only has 1 year of control left. So at that point, you could then pass the baton over to Spencer Jones at center field. I don't know. It was an idea of how things could come together that kind of just hit my mind as we were talking.
It's definitely funny that you did mention Bo Bichette. He didn't sign the extension yet, so Bo Bichette's a free agent.
Okay, my bad.
So, but you know what's funny about that is that I was kind of. It really is funny that you did mention that because Bo Bichette is a guy that I've been wanting. I mean, really, for the past 2 or 3 years now, I've been hoping he's going to be a Yankee at some point. There's not many, really, really, really good. I mean, there's a couple of elite shortstops, but he's like in that second tier to me where it's like, okay, he's a really, really good shortstop. But he also hits. He's a 280 guy. His OPS is above average, so he's got plenty of pop in his bag. He tops out at almost being a 30-100 guy. So, to me, when I think of a guy like Bo Bichette joining the Yankees, that's a dream to me. And the fact that he's really starting to enter the prime of his career, so he can only get he really can't get worse from here unless he just falls off a cliff, which he's probably not going to. So, and the only thing that would be hard is to try and kind of pry him away from Toronto because Toronto's having such a good season that there's been kind of rumors that he is really thinking on buying back in and staying with the team long term.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're the Yankees, you hope not. You would want to try to poach him. I mean, because over the years, he's been one of those guys that's been a thorn in the Yankee side.
Right.
So, I would love. It'd be a long shot to have all those pieces kind of come together, putting Jazz in center and Volpe at. But you know what? If they did Jazz can play it. He's played it before, so
right.
It's not like sticking him at third where he'd never played before and hoping
No.
it works because he's played that. So,
I
if
was
they
I was looking at our prospect situation for shortstop, and unfortunately, which is kind of weird to me because it felt like we were getting shortstop prospects, coming out of our ears for a while. But I think they've moved a decent amount of them to other positions because we don't really have anybody who's slated to. The next guy who's slated to make his debut is George Lombard, but that's not for probably a couple of years yet. So I was
yeah,
trying to think of, do we have anybody who could come up through the pipeline, but it doesn't appear so far.
yeah, and the draft picks. That's why everybody was saying, especially during the MLB draft, was, oh yeah, the Yankees are loading up on shortstops. It's like, yeah, but shortstops, you move them around a lot. They don't just play just short. So
Right.
a lot of those guys probably won't end up playing short. So um, it's tough because there really isn't anyone in the pipeline like we're saying. It really is just long. It's a short list for shortstop, and it's just Lombard, and that's it. So it it's it's scary to think about that's your only two options right now is a guy who's really not ready, and Yankee fans keep saying to call him up, and I'm like, you guys understand how baseball works? He's nowhere near ready.
Well, that's just it. I keep seeing people say, call up George Lombard, and I'm like, you realize that the exact way that we've ruined prospects over the last 5 to 10 years, is because we either were too aggressive with them, or we kind of just let them stick around at double A or triple A for too long. Like, getting guys player development timelines wrong is exactly how we got into a problem that we've had for the last, I would say, close to 20 years. So the fact that fans don't see that they're calling for, I don't want to say behavior, but a process that if they adhered to it would 99 out of 100 times just completely screw us even further. Yeah, I thank God that people on social media do not own this team or run this team.
Yeah, I mean it's scary because it's like we all flip out and we all get emotional when it
Oh,
comes
of course, of course.
but at the same time, it's like you also got to think rationally. Like you know, before I tweet about things when I get pissed at the Yankees, it's always like I'm thinking about what's logical, even though I'm angry. Like people are like the same people saying like, oh, the Yankees are terrible. It's like, yeah, okay, you can agree with us on that part that they're not playing good baseball. But when you're saying in the next sentence in your angry rant that they should go and get you know a combination of Skeens, Schoolable, O'Neill, Cruz, I'm like, guys, what are you doing?
This is not MLB the Show with forced trades turned on.
Like, like, like,
Well,
like,
it's also like, I'll and I don't mean to throw him under the bus, but one of the guys at K and K, Kurt, I don't know if you've talked to him or not, but like this is one of the things that he'll talk about, and other people as well will say, you've got to go get this guy or go get that guy. I'm like, two sides have to agree to make a trade, or like or a free agent has to agree to sign with you. Like, you can't like hold a guy ransom to like either make a trade or to sign with you. And it's like, I sometimes it's just, and then out. And I've talked about it a couple times, and I'll get crap for it sometimes, where I'll say, markets have to play it out, and people like don't want to hear that, but it's just like, okay, there's a price for everybody, but there's also a bridge too far for everybody. Now, you can disagree with where somebody put that, but I don't care if you're Paul Skeens. Like, like, there is a price for everybody in Major League Baseball 99.999% of the time. So, like, for example, am I willing to trade Spencer Jones? Yes. Am I going to trade him for Taylor Rogers? No. Am I going to excuse me? Am I going to trade him for? I can't think of a random person, but like, if I'm going to trade him, it's going to be for an upper echelon of players, likely at a position of need, like pitcher or previously third base. So, and even more so with George Lombard. I may not consider him entirely untouchable. I think the Yankees do, but I might not consider him entirely untouchable. But I'd better be getting somebody who can go right next to, Max Fried in the beginning of a postseason series. I better be getting somebody who, if there's a do or die game in the World Series where my back is against the wall and I need to win this game, I better get somebody that I'd be comfortable taking the ball in that game.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people take it too far where they're so against prospect hugging, which so am I, but that also doesn't mean I'm going to go and, flip Spencer Jones for the can of tuna that they stole at the beginning of My Cousin Vinny.
That's a good reference.
So we've kicked it past the buzzer a little bit. Do you have anything you want to wind up here? I'll give you a chance to talk before I start to close this out.
I think we hit on a lot of things. Now, Bo Bichette didn't get his extension, but we know someone who did. Seth Lugo did with the Royals, which is well deserved. I mean, really, the last 2 years, really his whole career, really since COVID, he's been a really great pitcher in this league. But I mean, really, since they turned him into a full-fledged starter, he's been phenomenal. So I think he really deserved the extension he got. We talked about we said we were going to talk about it, but I mean, this guy finished second in Cy Young last year. This year, missed a couple starts, but you know what? Still, ERA is really good, really solid. He's still he's right where he should be. That guy's gonna pitch to, somewhere around a low 3 or even sub 3 ERA. It's just who he is. He's got a multitude of pitches that'll throw any lineup off balance. He did it against the Yankees last year in the ALDS. So it's definitely it's well deserved for a guy who's been really good for quite a few years. So so he's the first extension down, our first real big extension down. We'll see if Bo Bichette gets his, but I hope not for the Yankees' sake. I would like to see him be a shortstop for the Yankees at some point. But I think other than that, I think we hit on everything. I think we not a lot of big things going on so far during the deadline period. So a couple things here and there, but not super big like needle moving moves. So next week, because the deadline will be over, we'll definitely have a lot more to talk about. We'll definitely have a lot more that we can kind of start piecing together in our head in terms of where the teams kind of lay for the rest of the season. So it'd be better, but I feel like we did good tonight. I feel like we kept up our energy as much as possible because we're both tired. We both had
definitely are. I can only imagine how much more tired you are because obviously you just made all those travels. But I appreciate that you were able to jump on tonight. And yes, like you said, we'll have I presume plenty to be. I don't know if this is going to be a major deadline like active wise for like all of Major League Baseball. Like I'm skeptical that we're going to get a ton of major names moved, but do I think the Yankees are going to be active? Yes, I do. I think that the Yankees are Brandon Cuddy spoke a little while ago, said, on the same token where he talked about Jake Bird being somebody the Yankees are trying to get, says that after the Ahmed Rosario deal, they did pivot to bullpen. They are looking to try and get not only him, but multiple guys. My guess is that they'll come away with, my guess is at least 2 relief pitchers. And I would like it if they could come away with a starter as well. However, I will say, and I know fans don't want to hear this, but they've got multiple pitchers coming back in the next month or so, partially, namely Luis Gil, among others. So I know fans don't want to hear that, these guys coming back is like trade deadline acquisitions. I will say that a lot of the starters who are believed to be genuinely available, Luis Gil would be up in that on the upper half of that. So I'm not saying they shouldn't get a trade deadline thing, but I'm just saying that there are a lot of guys on this who are available that Gil is better than that acquisition. And getting somebody from outside doesn't necessarily mean getting somebody better. So I will say that I do think that a couple of arms are coming in. My guess is that it'll be a couple relievers. I don't know if they'll be able to get a starter. I would like them to, but I will also point out that guys like Gil, De Los Santos, and a couple of others are also coming through in the next few weeks as well.
Yeah, and I think hopefully that after if they make those moves, hopefully we're talking about the Yankees in a better spot than where they are now. Now it's like we said before the start of the show. They don't want to backdoor their way into the postseason, but I mean, sometimes when you have a season that's as tough as this with this many injuries and just a lot of guys that just kind of haven't panned out the way they hoped. Honestly, at this point, just getting there is important. Get there and make some do some damage, make some noise. So
absolutely,
that's the most important part going forward. So we gotta see how the deadline ends up, and then we'll be back next week. Kind of breaking it all down. So
absolutely, I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to following what goes on Thursday up until Thursday 6 p.m. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to be back on Saturday, back normal time, normal day, right?
Yep.
All right, cool. So we'll be we'll have a little bit of time to kind of digest this, a little bit of time to kind of process whatever has happened both for the Yankees and around baseball, and we'll be here to kind of give our instant reactions and then sort of our post-instant reactions on Saturday night.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Sounds
all right.
good.
Guys, thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for joining us a little bit later tonight and on a different day. We are back next Saturday, as we just said, on August 2nd, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Same